There have to be more tombs out there in need of raiding, so why didn't 2018's Tomb Raider ever lead to another adventure? You can thank Amazon for that. Tomb Raider was one of the hottest video game series of the 1990s, centering on Lara Croft, a relic hunting adventurer. The first film adaptation of the Tomb Raider franchise was Angelina Jolie's 2001 adventure flick. It earned a healthy $273 million at the box office, a solid take for a turn-of-the-millennium action movie, and enough to get a sequel quickly greenlit. In 2018, the baton was passed to Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider reboot, and it earned almost the exact same amount, yet there's been no follow-up since. But the reason why is more complicated than ticket sales. A sequel was in the works for a 2021 release, but it quickly hit a snag with the outbreak of COVID-19 in early 2020, just as things were apparently ramping up. Vikander was repeatedly asked about the sequel, and in a chat with Collider in 2021, she seemed unsure if it was still going to happen, explaining, "Pre-COVID, I would have said yes. And now I think it's a yes still. It's not greenlit, but the script is in the making, and I think everyone is excited, and I would love to revisit Lara again." Those delays may have cost them a sequel, because in 2022, Amazon acquired MGM, which forced the franchise into a complicated legal limbo, and the rights lapsed. An anonymous studio source told The Wrap there was a pre-negotiated ticking clock that had been agreed to, and there was no way to rescue it in time. MGM asked the rights holders for more time, but their patience had run out. Even though Tomb Raider was met with decidedly mixed reviews upon its release, it has achieved a mild cult status with fans who would love to see Vikander back as Lara Croft in a second movie. And it seems the filmmakers and its cast would love nothing more than to reunite for another go. In 2021, Lovecraft Country creator Misha Green signed up to write and direct a sequel.
Howdy Tomb Raider fans, my name is Misha Green and I'm the writer-director of the upcoming Tomb Raider movie.
Vikander seemed particularly pumped about the prospect of working with him, telling Entertainment Weekly in 2021, "I hope we go and make another movie. Because of the pandemic, we had plans of shooting this film, and now it's been 1.5 years. But Misha Green is on board, and she's writing a draft right now." Ever hopeful, Vikander seemed ready to strap on the guns and get back to adventuring, adding, "It would be so amazing if we get to go and do this very big-ass film together, going to kick some ass in front of the camera and behind the camera." A year later, though, Vikander's tone shifted, and she cautioned that the odds were stacked against them, telling Movie Zine in 2022, "I'm good at going back to that role, and it would mean a lot of training. Now it's a lot of talk considering that Amazon has bought MGM, and after the pandemic, there is so much politics. So right now, I actually do not really know what is happening." If there's going to be a Tomb Raider sequel, it would of course have to star Alicia Vikander. As far back as 2019, with the sequel already in early development, there wasn't actually concrete word on whether Vikander would reprise the role, with people reporting that it was still unclear whether she'd be back. But that question was answered when the actress officially signed up, and she began speaking about the sequel publicly. Sadly, most of her comments were regarding its long delay. Beyond Vikander, there isn't much known about who else from the cast might have reappeared in this proposed sequel, though an unverified report in 2020 did suggest that Kristen Scott Thomas would return and that she'd have a much meatier role. The actress had played a smaller part as Anna Miller, Lara's mentor and a colleague of her father in the 2018 film. Anna is a bigger bad in the video games, and according to the rumor, she would have been bumped up to the main villain for the sequel, which had been teased at the close of the first film.
You can pick up where he left off.
Tomb Raider was helmed in 2018 by a relatively unknown Norwegian filmmaker named Roar Uthaug, who a few years later directed the cult hit Troll. The script was penned by Geneva Robertson Dworet in her feature film debut, alongside co-writers Evan Darty and Alistair Siddons. Robertson Dworet went on to work on Captain Marvel, but neither she nor Uthaug were expected to return for the second Tomb Raider film after it began development. Instead, writer Amy Jump was signed in 2019 to pen the second film, and Ben Wheatley inked a deal to sit in the director's chair. But as the delays on the film began to pile up, the studio made significant changes to the crew behind the camera, which saw both Amy Jump and Ben Wheatley dismissed from the project. Replacing them was Misha Green, who was announced to both write and direct the sequel in 2021, though no reason was given as to the swap in filmmakers. Nevertheless, Green got right to work, and by May, She was telling her following on Twitter that the first draft of the script was complete, but that there was still a long journey to production. Long, in this instance, was a hell of an understatement.
You might as well tie a stone to your foot and jump off the boat now.
Though it took more than a year after Tomb Raider was released before the studio was ready to commit to a sequel, they finally did put the wheels in motion in 2019. In fact, rumor has it that the Tomb Raider sequel came fairly close to beginning production. A November 2019 report from HN Entertainment claimed that Vikander was signed on, the script was ready to go, and the studio was locking down locations for shooting. Per that same report, which was seemingly never confirmed by any of the major trades, MGM Studios was preparing to bring the production back to the UK, where much of the first movie was filmed. Warner Brothers' Leavesden Studios was even said to be the place where they would set up shop for the sequel before it all fell apart. What's known for a fact is that this version of the movie was supposed to start shooting in early 2020, although pandemic-related shutdowns forced the project to be put on hold, and then its release date was taken off the calendar altogether. It wouldn't be until 2021 that it got back up and running. By then, Green was the writer and director of record, and her version of the film was also further along than some fans may realize. As it happens, it even had a title, Tomb Raider Obsidian, and Vikander was expressing excitement over an imminent production start that never came. Nobody but those involved know what the sequel would have been about when it was under the stewardship of writer Amy Jump and director Ben Wheatley. However, some word has trickled out over the years of what might have happened in the version written by Green, cobbled together from various tidbits that leaked during its development and after the film was shuttered. In addition to talk that Kristen Scott Thomas would return in a bigger role as the main villain of the film, audiences also got a brief glimpse of some of the action in late 2022. When storyboard artist Jake Lunt Davies posted a series of images that he'd created for the project on Twitter. What they revealed didn't give away too much of the plot, but they did showcase a pulse-pounding sequence that may have kicked off the story, with a daring attack on Croft Manor carried out by shadowy agents. Given the ending of the 2018 Tomb Raider and the rumored larger role for Anna Williams, it's possible this raid was orchestrated by Lara Croft's mentor, sparking a quest that would take her to various locations to get to the truth. If there's anything still standing in the way of a direct sequel to 2018's Tomb Raider, it isn't the pandemic, problems with the script, or scheduling with the actors. Instead, it's the fact that a reboot to the franchise was announced in early 2023. This stems from MGM's loss of the rights following their acquisition by Amazon, with an apparent bidding war taking place for the chance to start from scratch.
Blockbuster news shaking Hollywood this morning. Amazon buying MGM Studios for $8.5 billion.
The winners of that bidding war were, of course, Amazon, who quickly announced grand plans for a total reboot of the movie with a new actor taking over for Vikander. The deal was a big one for the streaming service, which includes much more than just the rights to make a feature film. And while numbers weren't announced, The Hollywood Reporter suggested it only fell a little short of their gargantuan deal for The Lord of the Rings. The announcement came on the heels of the news that Amazon would be getting into the video game publishing business, and it would be putting out the next Tomb Raider console game from developer Crystal Dynamics. Details at this time are still sketchy, with no writer announced for the film, let alone a director or star. But that doesn't mean that Amazon hasn't started work on the project, and they have, in fact, made bigger plans that could see an explosion of Tomb Raider across multiple media platforms. After snagging the rights to a Tomb Raider adaptation, the folks at Amazon have revealed they'll be crafting a big-screen reboot. But that isn't all. The film will be just one part of a larger tapestry, and they have plans to turn the franchise into a full-fledged cinematic universe. To make that happen, they have announced that a Tomb Raider TV series is in the works as a streaming original, with plans for the show and film to be tightly integrated with both each other and the already announced video game relaunch. Even more exciting is that spearheading the effort behind the scenes will be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the three-time Emmy Award-winning creator and writer of Fleabag, star of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and co-writer of the 2021 James Bond film No Time to Die. According to the trade, Waller-Bridge will write the series, but is unlikely to be involved in the film. And while many fans may have jumped to the conclusion that she might play Lara Croft too, that doesn't appear to be the case. One actor who has stepped up to volunteer for the title role is Michaela J. Rodriguez, who told Variety, I would like to tackle a role like Lara Croft. I would love to do that because I have the badassness and sex appeal to make people love it. If not, I would also love to be Lara Croft's right-hand girl who gets just as much airtime and is right next to her killing it. With a cinematic universe on its way that will reboot the franchise with an all-new cast and crew, it might seem like a sequel to 2018's Tomb Raider has no chance of ever seeing the light of day. But if one steps back and takes stock of the Hollywood landscape, they'll see that a return to that universe isn't really far-fetched, and it could actually still happen, even if it's not anytime soon. After all, recent films like Spider-Man No Way Home and The Flash have seen the return of actors who audiences thought they'd said goodbye to decades ago, with both Tobey Maguire and Michael Keaton returning as Spider-Man and Batman.
Versus Angelina Jolie. That would be a cool film.
And while there's very, very little chance that Amazon would use a multiverse gimmick to have previous Lara Crofts meet, although that's what studios all seem to think the fans want, the idea of returning to the continuity of a previous movie even after a reboot isn't without precedent itself. The Terminator and Halloween franchises both did just that, after all. From the sounds of it, even star Alicia Vikander would still be up for reprising the role years down the line. Vikander told Variety in 2023, "For me, that was another one of those childhood dreams. To portray an action character was awesome and beyond what I ever thought I would do. And I think the physical part is something that I really enjoyed. So yeah, if another opportunity like that came again, I'll be interested."